Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at some of those underrated Mega Drive or Sega Genesis games that you may not have played before. And as always, this is just going to be 10 games that I plucked out of air. You may not believe these are underrated, and you may think there are ones I need to talk about. So if that's the case, let me know in the comments below. As always, if you do like this channel, please leave it a like, a comment and subscribe for more content. We've also got the weekly podcast and we've also got a $1 a month Patreon, and the link is in the description below. Right, let's get into it, shall we? 10 underrated games for the Sega Mega Drive. Micro Machines 2 Turbo Tournament. You control tiny tour vehicles, or it could be cars, tanks, helicopters and boats, racing through everyday environments. Could be a kitchen table becomes a deadly cliffside, a pool table becomes a high-speed green plane. Now, the elimination rule is the game's secret sauce. In multiplayer, the goal isn't just to be fast, it's to drive so far ahead of your opponent that they disappear off the back of the screen. If you snap the camera, you get a point, and it's first to fill their bar wins. But the revolution about this game was the J-Cart. The game cartridge itself had 2 extra ports built into it, that meant you could have 4-player local multiplayer without needing a separate multiplayer adapter. But in reality, you could actually do 8-player, which was incredible, and I've done when I was a kid. 2 people share the controller, and it's absolutely mental. Now with every level it changes your handling. You might be drifting a sports car on a school desk one minute, and then trying to steer through a bubble bath soapy bubbles the next. There is something inherently charming about dodging a spilled bottle of orange juice or using a ruler as a bridge. It turns your boring house into a 16-bit playground. There is actually a roster of wacky characters like Spider, Cherry and Violet. They don't have different stats, but everyone had their lucky character they refused to switch from. The kitchen levels here are notorious, avoiding the burners on the stove or sliding through sticky honey traps made for some of the loudest shouting at the TV moments in gaming history. The physics here that the cars are light and bouncy. Wrong bump into the breakfast bowl and you'll go flying into the abyss. It rewarded precision and memorization of the track layout. As the camera is strictly overhead, this makes the game feel like a classic arcade racer, but it also means you have very little time to react to an oncoming turn. And the game moves very fast. On the Mega Drive's hardware, keeping the scrolling smooth while 4 players, potentially 8, are bouncing around was a technical achievement for Codemasters. In some levels you get a tank that can actually rotate its turret and blast opponents. This wasn't about racing, it was about toy-based warfare, and they were hilarious. The single-player challenge mode is surprisingly brutal. The AI racers rarely make mistakes, so one hit against a stray pencil usually means you're starting the race over. Micro Machines on the Mega Drive is pure fun. It's a game that took the toys to life concept decades before it was a thing, making you feel like a kid playing on the floor again. It's fast, frantic, and thanks to the J-Car, the ultimate 8-player party game for the 16-bit era. TailSpin. Oh, I used to love this cartoon when I was a kid, I'm sure you guys did as well. In this game, you choose between Blue or Kit Cloud Kicker. They aren't just skins, they have totally different playstyles. Blue uses a paddle ball to smack enemies and has more health, while Kit uses a slingshot and can reach higher platforms with his airfoil. Unlike Sonic or Mario, you can't just run to the end of level. You're a delivery service. You must find a specific number of cargo crates, usually 10, hidden throughout the stage before the exit's going to open. There's also 2-player co-op, and this is a definitive way to play. One person controls Baloo on the ground, while the other player plays Kit hovering around and picking off enemies from above. It's one of the few 16-bit games that felt like a true partnership. To keep things spicy, every 3rd level or so switches to a side-scrolling shooter mode where you pilot the plane. It's a nice break from the platforming, even if the plane feels like a flying brick sometimes. The Sega Genesis FM synth chip does a surprisingly punchy version of the TailSpin theme. It's upbeat, catchy, and will be stuck in your head for 3 days at minimum. The leader of the Air Pirates shows up as a recurring boss, often flying his tri-wing plane, and he's just as theatrical and annoying as he is on the show, shouting insults while you try and bop him on the head. The game captures the weird locations of the show perfectly. You'll visit the frozen, miserable land of Thembria, and you'll have to dodge high-fight cannons and navigate slippery ice. Between levels, you'll see a map of the world with a sea duck flying to its next destination. It gave the game a sense of scale, as you weren't just beating levels, you were travelling the globe for hire. Now, Baloo is a big bear, and the game really makes you feel it. He has a lot of momentum, so if you stop right at the edge of the platform, you're probably going to slide right off. And in typical 19 Sega fashion, enemies often respawn the second they go off screen. This makes the cargo hunt very stressful because you're constantly re-clearing areas you've already visited. Now, just like the NES version, when you shoot, you have to be careful with your ammo, your paddle balls or rocks. If you spam them too fast, there's a short cooldown that leaves you vulnerable. And the game is packed with fake walls. If a wall looks slightly different or leads to a dark corner, walk into it, and there's usually a hidden crate or a bunch of extra lives inside. TailSpin on the Mega Drive is a gorgeous, colourful and surprisingly deep exploration platformer. It rewards players who take their time to scour every corner of the map, rather than those who try to speedrun. While the difficulty can be unbearable at times, the ability to grab a friend for co-op makes it a classic 16-bit adventure that perfectly captures the Disney afternoon spirit. McDonald's Treasureland Adventure. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be talking about this one, but why not? It's bright, bizarre, and has way more heart and weirdness than a game about a fast food clown has any right to be. Ronald McDonald is walking in the forest when he finds a piece of a treasure map. Instead of calling his lawyer, he decides to track down the other 3 pieces held by various villains. Now, Ronald doesn't jump on the heads to kill enemies, he shoots sparkling magic from his fingertips. You can even fire power-ups to make his magic wider and more devastating. Now, the scarf grapple is the game's core mechanic. Ronald can fire a string of knotted handkerchiefs, his scarf, to latch onto floating rings and pull himself up. It's snappy, satisfying, and essential for the game's vertical platforming. And you're going to run into the whole McDonald's gang here: Grimace, Hamburglar, Birdie, and the Fry Kids. But in a weird twist, they often ask you to sacrifice your health, jewels, to help them or unlock the path forward. Because it's a treasure game, things get quite trippy. You'll fight giant fish skeletons, jump on the heads of ballerina bunny girls on train tracks, and eventually travel to a magical moon to fight a giant alien baby. Now, your health is represented by the coloured jewels. When you get hit, you literally drop a jewel. If you're quick, you can sometimes grab before it disappears, similar to Sonic's rings. However, if you fall into a bottomless pit, Ronald doesn't just die. A bunch of balloons will catch him and let you float back up to safety. It makes the game much more accessible for kids while keeping the pace fast for adults. There are also shops where Ronald can buy items from himself. You can use gold bags found at levels to buy extra lives, jewels, or even play a match 3 puzzle game to win prizes. Even though it's a licensed game, the animation's incredible. Ronald is bouncy and expressive, and the backgrounds feature the kind of multi-layered scrolling and special effects that Treasure became known for. Unlike most games where you just shoot the boss, these bosses have a sucking mechanic. Okay, probably not themed around children, but oh well. They'll try and inhale Ronald's jewels. That even sounds worse. God's sake. But you have to let them eat one to make them vulnerable and then blast them while they're chewing. It's a literal pay-to-win combat system, or probably gonna get me banned off YouTube. The game uses also a classic 90s password system to save your progress between the 4 worlds: forest, town, sea, and moon. And also hidden in the game's code is a secret 3D rotating cube, the Treasure logo test. It was a flex to show that Genesis could handle 3D math, even though the game itself is strictly 2D. McDonald's Treasureland Adventure is the ultimate little hidden gem. It takes a corporate mascot and puts him in a world that feels like a fever dream designed by genius game developers. It's colourful, creative, and just the amount right of weird. It proved that in the 16-bit era, even a clown can be a platforming hero if he had the right studio backing him up. Shadowrun. You are Joshua. Your brother was killed in a Stuffer Shack robbery, or so it seems. You arrive in Seattle with nothing but a thirst for revenge. To find the killers, you have to become a Shadowrunner, a freelancer taking dangerous, illegal jobs for mega corporations. At the start, you focus on one of 3 archetypes: a street samurai, a high health focus on guns and cyberware, so body modifications; a decker, the hacker, a high intelligence focuses on the Matrix; or a gator shaman, the magic user, and can summon spirits and cast spells but is physically weak. You've also got a karma system, as you don't just level up, you earn karma by completing runs. You then manually spend that karma to upgrade specific stats like strength, quickness, or specialized skills like firearms, electronics. The main thing of this game is the Mr. Johnson system. You go to different bars like the Jump Off or the Icarus Descending and talk to Mr. Johnsons, and they give you randomized missions, courier runs, corporate extractions, or ghoul culling. The good thing about this game, it gives you a lot of freedom, as unlike most games in 1994, you can go anywhere. Want to spend 10 hours just hacking banks to get rich? Go for it. Want to hire a team of elite orcs and store up at a corporate tower? You can do that too. Now, the most legendary part of this game is when you jack in, the game shifts to a completely different mode. You navigate a VR grid using software like Slow, Degrade, and Attack to bypass the security systems and steal data files to sell on the black market. You can go to the street docks to replace your organs with chrome. You can get wired reflexes, which make you faster in combat, smart link to aim better, or dermal plating to take more hits. But be careful, if your essence drops to 0, you die. And you aren't alone either if you want. You can go to bars and hire other Shadowrunners. Some are cheap street scum, while others are legendary mercenaries who charge a fortune per run. The first hour of this game is brutal. You're weak and have no money, and a single random encounter with a gang can kill you. It's a 0 to hero journey that requires real patience. Because the game is so long and complex, the cartridge has a battery save which you need, as this allowed you to build up your Joshua over weeks or months of play. And as you walk through the rainy streets of Seattle, you'll be stopped by Lone Star Police, Halloweeners, gang members, or even orc bounty hunters. You have to decide, pay a bribe, talk your way out, or just start shooting. Shadowrun on the Mega Drive is a masterpiece of systems-driven design. It doesn't hold your hand, it drops you into a hostile city and tells you to survive. It's a game about the hustle, making enough money to buy a better gun so you can take a harder job to buy a better computer. It's arguably the deepest RPG on the system. Kid Chameleon. Released in 1992, it is famous for being one of the largest, longest and most punishingly difficult platformers on the Mega Drive. It's a game within a game that captures the 90s obsession with VR and extreme aesthetics. A new VR arcade game called Wildside has become too real. The boss, Heady Metal, is kidnapping kids who lose. Casey, the coolest kid in town, puts on his leather jacket and dives into the digital world to beat the machine at its own game. Now, the core mechanic of this game is the mask. Casey is a basic platformer until he puts on one of the 9 different masks, each giving him unique persona and powers. You've got ones like the Iron Knight, can climb walls and break through floors, the Red Stealth, a samurai with high jumps and a deadly katana, Cyclops uses a ray to reveal hidden blocks, Juggernaut, a skeleton and a tank that fires skull bombs, which is amazing, Maniacs, a Jason Voorhees-style slasher who throws infinite axes. This is a massive game as it features 103 levels, however you're not going to see them all in one go. The game is a massive web of teleporters and secret exits, and you can warp past 20 levels or accidentally find yourself in a brutal hell loop. Levels are built out of thousands of floating blocks. Some give you items, some are invisible, and some even contain diamonds which are used to trigger your mass special abilities like the Iron Knight's invincibility. And being 1992, Casey wears shades and a leather jacket. The levels have names like Plethora and Bloody Swamp, and the music this weird grungy mix of synth rock and industrial beats, that real 90s aesthetic. The difficulty though, this game hates you. There are no passwords and no save system on the original hardware, and if you want to beat all 103 levels you have to leave your console on for a week or be a literal god of platforming. The bosses are very difficult. Heady Metal is a giant floating dismembered head that spits out smaller heads at you. It's a bizarre, creepy and extremely difficult to hit without getting the right mask. Between the elsewhere teleporters that you can send you back to level 1 and the literal walls of lava, Kid Chameleon can be a real test of endurance and memory. Each mask changed Casey's weight and momentum. The Berserker, the Rhino, feels heavy and fast, while Skyscutter, the hoverboard, flips the gravity entirely, letting you walk on the ceiling. The game is famous for that skip culture. In the very first level, if you know exactly where to jump, you can warp almost to the end of the game, which is a bit of a cheat. Now remember I said about the diamonds? Well, if you press A and start, you can use them, and each mask has a different diamond power, like the Micromax, the Bug, who can create a mini whirlwind to fly. Now, much like Super Mario Brothers, the game hides its best rewards in invisible blocks. Learning where these are is the only way to survive the later, more vertical levels. Kid Chameleon is the ultimate challenge game. It's an experimental sandbox of power-ups, and it feels like Sega trying to out-Mario Mario by sheer volume of content. It's weird, it's stylish, and it's undeniably Sega. It remains one of the most respected and feared titles in the Mega Drive library. SubTerrania. Released in 1994 and developed by Zyrinx, it's a technical marvel that remains one of the most unique and notoriously difficult shooters on the Mega Drive. It's a physics-based thrust shooter that feels like Lunar Lander met Contra in a dark, claustrophobic cave. Now here, an alien race has invaded an underground mining colony, and you pilot a high-tech tactical fighter sent to the depths to rescue trapped miners, collect submodules, and take down massive alien bosses. Now the gravity mechanic is the big thing about this game. Unlike a normal shooter where you just move around, here you're constantly fighting gravity. If you aren't firing your thrusters, you're falling, so you have to rotate your ship 360 degrees and burst your engines to hover, maneuver and land. And your thrusters though aren't infinite, you have a fuel gauge that constantly drains as you move. To survive, you've got to fire fuel canisters scattered throughout caves or risk becoming a floating paperweight. Now, it's not just about killing aliens. One level might task you with rescuing miners you have to pick up and carry, while another involves you navigating a megasub through narrow electrified tunnels. The game is dark, industrial and lonely. The sound design is incredible though, as you can hear the low hum of your engines and the screech of alien life forms echo through the caverns. For a standard Mega Drive game, the graphics are mind-blowing. It features smooth rotation and scaling effects that the console wasn't supposed to be able to do easily. The bosses though are huge, as they're screen-filling mechanical monstrosities. Fighting them while trying not to crash into the ceiling or run out of fuel is sometimes one of the most intense gameplay on the system. Now if you zoom forward and let go of the D-pad, you keep drifting. Learning how to counter thrust to stop your momentum is the first hurdle every player has to clear. If you have a shield that protects you from enemy fire, it doesn't protect you from the walls though. Bumping into the terrain causes instant damage, making every narrow corridor a potential death trap. Now as you go along, you can collect different weapon modules, like the triple shot or the lasers. However, if your ship is destroyed, you lose your current upgrade, making the game even harder as you recover. Now because the game is pretty big and there are plenty of levels with non-linear mazes, you have a map screen. Checking it constantly is required to find the miners and exits before your fuels run out. SubTerrania is a game for players who love a steep learning curve. It's a thinking man's shooter that rewards patience, delicate thumb movements, and resource management over blind reflexes. It's beautiful, it's punishing, and one of the most sophisticated action games ever released for the 16-bit era. MUSHA, Metallic Uniframe Super Hybrid Armor. This is the king of pure 16-bit power. Released in 1990 by the legendary shooters at Compile, it's widely considered one of the best vertical shmup games ever made. It's fast, it's loud, and turns the Mega Drive into a heavy metal lightning storm. In the year 707 of the Lunar Era, a supercomputer named Terrawig goes rogue. You play as Terry piloting the MUSHA unit, a giant flying samurai mech, to dive right into the heart of the enemy's floating fortress. You collect power chips that upgrade your basic Vulcan cannon, but the real meat is the 3 special weapon types: the Blazing Beam, a concentrated laser, the Vanishing Buster, powerful explosives, or the Defensive Circle, spinning shields that can be thrown. You also have 2 smaller drones that fly with you. The coolest part, you can change the formation on the fly by pressing a button, switching from forward fire to rotate to backwards cover, depending on where the enemies are coming from. Unlike many shooters, you can also adjust your movement speed at any time. Want to zip through bullet hell? Crank it up. Need precision for a boss? Slow it down. The aesthetic here is incredible, through steam-powered canyons and past giant robotic samurai masks. It's a perfect blend of ancient tradition and futuristic tech. The game, though, is relentless. The screen scrolls at high speeds, enemies warp in from everywhere, and the special effects are mind-blowing for the 90s. Now, while it's challenging, MUSHA does make you feel like a god. When you're fully powered up with a shield and maxed out lasers, you're a localized natural disaster. There should be real praise for the developers here. Despite having dozens of enemies, explosions, and bullets on the screen at once, the game almost never slows down. It's a technical masterclass. Now, compared to bullet hell games in the late 90s, MUSHA's unit's hitbox is fairly generous, and you can take a hit to your special weapon without exploding instantly. Also, the cartridge is one of the most expensive holy grail items the Mega Drive collectors. If you find a real copy at a garage sale, you've struck gold. Like many compiled games, if you lose all your lives, you can sometimes find hidden extends or secret power-up stashes if you know exactly where to shoot the background scenery. MUSHA is the peak of a 16-bit shooter. It doesn't rely on gimmicks or gravity, it relies on speed, style, and the soundtrack that make you want to run through a brick wall. It's a definitive cool game of the system, proving that the Mega Drive was the undisputed home of the arcade experience. Bonanza Brothers. Released in the arcade in 1990 and ported to the Mega Drive in 1991, it's a stylish slapstick robbery simulator that feels like a playable Pixar movie from the 16-bit era. It's one of the few games where you're technically the bad guy, but you're so charming that nobody minds. You play as Mobo and Robo, 2 lanky, lean brothers who look like they're made of Lego. You're hired to break into various locations, banks, mansions, casinos, and even a pyramid to steal specific treasures and get to the roof for a blimp extraction. This isn't Metal Gear Solid. You move on an isometric style plane, you can move into and out of the screen, and you can hide behind doors, press yourself against the walls, and wait for guards to look the other way before sprinting past. You have a pea shooter, so no actual guns, but it doesn't kill anyone, it just stuns them for a few seconds. And most of the fun comes from environmental traps, slamming a door into the guard's face, or dropping a heavy weight on them. There's also split screen co-op, and this is the game's true mode. In 2-player mode, the screen is permanently split. You and a friend have to coordinate. One person distracts the guard, while the other sneaks behind to grab the loot. The character designs here are iconic. They move with a goofy, rubbery physics that lets every animation, from their stealth walk to the way they look when they get flattened by a door, be hilariously expressive. When a guard spots you, a giant exclamation mark appears over their head, and they let out a digitalized shout. If you get caught, the brothers have a hilarious surrender animation where they look genuinely embarrassed. Every stage then feels like a mini puzzle. The lab levels have moving platforms, while the mansions have multiple floors and secret passages. You have to learn the patrol patterns here like a real-life thief. Now, the Mega Drive version does a great job mimicking the arcade's hardware. It uses a 2D plane system that allows you to jump between the layers of the background, giving it a sense of depth that most 16-bit games lacked. But be careful, you are on the clock. If you spend too much time trying to be perfect, the hurry up warning kicks in. This forces you to take risks, often leading to chaotic slapstick chases. Now, between certain levels there are bonus stages where you have to collect gold while dodging spotlights. If the light hits you, the round ends. It's a great test of pure reflexes. Now, talking about the AI, the guards, the policemen, the fat SWAT guys, and even the dogs have very specific behaviours. Some will chase you across the map, while others will just stand their ground. Learning who's a runner and who's a shooter is the key. Bonanza Brothers is a breath of fresh air compared to the gritty shooters of the time. It's a game about timing, humour, and teamwork. It doesn't take itself seriously, and that's exactly why it works. It's a heist game where the biggest prize is just seeing what goofy animation the characters are going to do next. Landstalker, The Treasures of King Noel. Released in 1992 by Climax Entertainment, it's one of the most ambitious action RPGs in the Mega Drive. It's famous for its beautiful visuals, witty writing, and perspective-bending puzzles that will make you either feel like a genius or break your controller. You're playing as Nigel, terrible name, a roguish treasure hunter elf. After a successful heist, you meet Friday, a tiny succubus fairy who tells you about the legendary treasure of King Noel. Together, you head to Mercator Island for an epic island-spanning adventure. The game uses a strict isometric view. Unlike Zelda, where you can move up, down, left, right, here you move diagonally. This gives the world a huge sense of verticality and depth, allowing for a complex multi-level dungeon. Landstalker is a real-time hack and slash. You have a sword that you can upgrade. As you find livestock, your health grows. The combat is fast, but requires precision because of the diagonal movement. And with the puzzles, you aren't just fighting, you're stacking boxes, hitting switches in specific orders, and navigating invisible platforms. It's much more of a brain burner than your average RPG. Now, there's a lot of humour in this game, and the translation is surprisingly great for the 90s. Nigel and Friday have a bickering couple dynamic, and the NPCs are full of personality. There's a famous scene involving a bathhouse that was quite cheeky for a Sega game at the time. Now, the island that you're visiting feels like a living place. You'll explore bustling Castle City, dark caves, a village of dog people, and even a lighthouse. And the world isn't connected in a way that encourages exploration. Friday, your fairy companion, isn't just a mascot, she gives you hints, and most importantly revives you with Eki roots if you die, and she is the unsung hero of the journey. Now, because the game is isometric, judging jumps can be notoriously difficult. You might think you're jumping at a platform when you're actually jumping behind it. It's a love it or hate it mechanic that defines the game's difficulty. Now, there is a Pacific forest maze that has driven players mad for decades, the Green Labyrinth. It's a test of mapping skills and patience that serves as a rite of passage for Landstalker fans. With your inventory, you have a limited menu where you manage your healing items, keys, and special gear. Managing your resources is a key to surviving the massive endgame dungeons. But also, this game is packed with fake walls and one-pixel secrets. Finding all the life stocks to max out your health is a monumental task that requires checking every corner of the land. Landstalker is a masterpiece of world building and puzzle design. It took the action-adventure genre and gave it literally a new dimension. It's a game that demands your full attention. One wrong jump or a missed switch can send you back a long way. But the feeling of finally uncovering King Noel's treasure is one of the most rewarding moments in 16-bit gaming. And finally, Mega Bomberman. Oh my god, I love Mega Bomberman. Now, for Sega fans, this was a massive deal because it was the only official Bomberman game on the console, which was ridiculous. Why? Nintendo got about like 26. Why don't we only get one? But either way, I loved it. Planet Bomber has been shattered into 5 pieces by the evil Bangula. To fix it, the White Bomberman has to travel to each fragment, jungle, volcano, sea, castle and tundra, to destroy the spirit pictures and piece the world back together. Now, the game's biggest innovation here was the introduction of the animal mounts called Ruai. They're like a kangaroo-like creature. They come in different colours like Yoshi's and give you a free hit, although they do run away, which is annoying. But the blue ones can kick bombs over blocks, the yellows can kick blocks themselves, the pink does a useless but adorable dance, so you'll go away. The purple can jump over blocks and bombs, and the green is a high-speed dash. The green one's my favourite. Now, unlike other Bomberman games where you just kill the enemies and finally exit, here you have to destroy specific spirit picture fragments hidden inside glass orbs to open the portal to the next stage. But there's also the battle mode, and that is the soul of the game. Now, up to 4 players with a multi-tap can face off in a variety of themed arenas. It's fast, frantic, and the quickest way to end a friendship, and unfortunately we only ended 2. Because I ain't had a multi-tap growing up, I wasn't bougie. But in battle mode, you aren't just a generic bomber. You can pick from 9 different characters, including a punk bomber, a baby bomber, an old man, and even a Pat Labor-style mechanical bomber, which I always picked because it's cool as shit. They don't have different stats, but the personality that is huge. My god, it was like I was walking around as a Gundam. The worlds aren't just palette swaps though, which is good. The volcano world has lava that erupts, the sea world has Minecraft you can ride, and the haunted castle world features traps and teleporters. And the boss fights here are surprisingly creative. You fight a Franken banana, a banana controlled by a monkey, a giant hermit crab, and eventually the mad scientist Bagula himself. The animations here are incredibly charming. If you trap yourself within your own bomb, White Bomber eyes bug out in panic, and it's one of the most expressive games on the console. Because this was a port from the PC Engine, the Mega Drive version is slightly dark and lost some of the background animations. I never knew that, I don't care. Now, if you're playing battle mode and it goes on too long, the hurry up warning sounds and the edge of the screen start closing in with indestructible blocks, crushing anyone in their path and forcing a final showdown in the centre, which is pretty brutal. Mega Bomberman is one of my favourite games in the Mega Drive, I don't care what anyone says. It's a perfect mix of simple mechanics and deep strategy wrapped in a colourful, light-hearted package. Whether you're playing through the clever single-player adventure or screaming at your friends, aka my brother, at battle mode, it's a high-energy blast that every Sega collection needs. And that's it, 10 underrated games for the Sega Mega Drive. What do you think? Do you think I've got this right? Do you think there's ones I need to talk about? If so, put them in the comments below. And if you really think I deserved it, please leave a like, because that's what helps this channel grow. Until then, I'll see you all in a few days. My name's been Danny. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.